Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Hope you're having a great day. I'm not sure if you're following the show or if you've been following the news, but further follow up on the land court case in BC, in the Richmond, BC area. The Cowichan Tribe, and I probably said that wrong, issued a statement the other day, well, a counter statement to the statement from the rest of it that's going on, that they're trying to clear up some misinformation about their court case, that the court did rule in their favor about a land claim act in the Richmond, BC area. And in fact, I believe it's right inside of the city. So I had covered a little bit about this before and some of the uproar, mostly when it comes to the residents there and their free and simple title, as well as the some of the property ownership rights from both a federal level, provincial, and the municipal level. All are in on it, as well as private residents. So the tribe put out a statement basically saying that the Richmond mayor, Malcolm Brody, the premier of BC, David Eby, are going around making inflammatory statements about the impact of the court case, as it basically impacts about 125 or so residents and their free simple title, and how and what that might mean for their future. A little bit of history I dug up that was in the statement that I found was interesting, that I thought might be relevant to you, because it was interesting to me, was a little bit of the history of the area and the land that's in dispute. Now, back in the day, not that long ago, really, there was a permanent village that the tribe had that was well known. The Hudson's Bay Company employees remarked in 1824 that the village contained over 108 longhouses and was a landmark on the Fraser River. Now, in 1859, Colonel Richard Moody was in charge of course, drawing up lines in the reserve part of the territory for the tribe, but managed to somehow uh, get a bunch of the land for himself. No surprise there that a land commissioner who's charged to outline reserve lands for First Nations somehow ended up with lands of his own. So the total land that was originally discussed in the court case was about 1,846 acres. The land that we're talking about that's got the big question, of course, is only about 780 of those acres. But of those, that 788 acres, of course, again, has the Canadian government as an interested party, the Vancouver Port Authority, as well as the city of Richmond, BC, and of course, like I said, about 125 or so citizens. So the crown representatives, the crown clowns, are of course whipping up the frenzy because they feel, of course, that free simple title, which is indeed granted by the crown, cannot coexist with Indigenous title. These are two separate entities that must remain, well, at more than arm's length. So, how would you have, how does the colonial state feel then about individuals with free simple title residing within what would then be the reserve? Now, most of these acres that everyone's got claim over, like the Port Authority, are largely undeveloped. So this is not some town situation that they're trying to revert half of the 780 acres of the city of Richmond, BC, to tribal lands. This is largely undeveloped, but its impact, it would be substantial to the Port Authority and the rest. And of course, for these residents, what happens when the crown, who grants you free simple title, what does that mean now when it's now the tribe? You could be living on the reserve. What happens to your land? Who gives you title? And I think the reason that you get actors like the premier and the mayor up in arms about it is because of the colonial construct of land ownership. Who grants you title to that land? When you get a mortgage and you buy the land from the state, what are your property rights? Really, what is your ownership value? Like, what is the legal extent of your free simple title? And I think that is why you get a lot of people up in arms and you get a lot of alarmists throwing this around, because it's wider implication going forward in land claim movements across the country with unresolved issues. Makes Joe Canadian citizen, rightly uneasy, because we are constantly lured into the idea that the government is absolute and your free simple title because you got a mortgage is, definitive, where that may not be the case, as we even see in colonial law, where the state can have preeminent right of domain regardless of your land ownership claims as an individual. But people don't like to feel like that. No one likes to feel uncertain about where they live or their home. A little rich, I think, and a little fun to see, the average Joe settler have the shoe on the other foot and have to worry about somebody coming and taking away their land or moving them off their land, or maybe they don't have title to their land. So I've been watching this with some interest. Of course, the premier and the mayor are going to make sure that this goes to appeal, and this was going to probably wind its way to the Supreme Court of Canada, but at least at the highest bench in BC, they have sided with the tribe. So interesting to follow. Of course, there's going to be a lot more shots across the bow, probably a lot more drama to ensue, because that's how these things go. So anyway, as always, hit the like, subscribe. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube and Spotify. And as always, if you would help us out and contribute financially to support the show and help us grow, that would be amazing. We try to make it as convenient as possible with the Buy a Coffee program. As always, we are looking for people and companies who would sponsor the show. That's always a big leg up for a little show like this. And stay tuned for Friday. We have Alan from the Métis Federation of Canada coming on the show to tell us a little bit about what's going on with them and what's new and what to expect in 2026. So until next time, the jig is up. The Jig is Up is made possible in part by the Métis Federation of Canada, uniting Métis people from coast to coast to coast.